I'm Brittany. I'm a licensed elementary school teacher, but I'm staying home right now with my 2 kiddos and to run my home business. And today we're going to talk about 5 ways to introduce numbers to our littles. Okay, so I had a question from a few of our Facebook group members, which if you're not part of my Facebook group, you can do that. I'll put the link below. It's called Practical Homeschooling on a Budget. But again, you can join that. I'll put the link below. And what I do is I ask our members, do you have any questions today? Do you have something you'd like to talk about? That kind of thing. And sorry, I can't get this where I want it. So anyways, that is kind of what we do. Sometimes I come up with my own topic. Sometimes people ask. This was something that 2 people had asked about. And that is how to introduce math or counting numbers to small children, usually toddlers. So the children that my readers asked about are 3.5, and that is a great age. That really is an age you should definitely start working with kids on numbers. But one of the mistakes that I've seen parents really go through, and I mean, I've done this myself. I've pushed my daughter too hard when she was little, was trying to do too much too soon and expecting a 3.5-year-old to sit down and fill out this and understand it is just a little much. And like I said, I know because I've been there and done that. Sometimes kids are ready at that age, sometimes they're not. But we don't want to overwhelm kiddos when they are little. We want to really start them in a way that makes sense in their world. We're not intruding on their world. We're not pushing homework on them before they're ready. We want to make counting a part of their world first, to numbers a part of their world. And the first way to do that, the best way to do that, that we all need to start with is verbally. We need to include numbers in everyday life. And I'm not saying you have to sit there and count to 20 every day. That's not what you should be, forcing your 3.5-year-old to do if they're not ready. Yes, there are always exceptions. But if you're just starting, and this can go for anywhere down to, a 1.5-year-old, an 18-month-old to, someone who's 5. If you haven't started, this is where you need to start. And that is incorporating numbers in everyday life. So, when you're running out of the house and you have 3 things to do and you tell your child, we have 3 errands to go on today. 1, 2, 3. We are going to the store, and then we're going to the doctor, and then we're going to get some gas. That's 3 things, and that's all you need to do. And then as the day goes, you can say, okay, we had 3 things to do today. We already went to the store, so look, there's only 2 left. And believe it or not, that's the foundation for subtraction. But they don't know that, and they don't need to know that. All you're doing is you're showing them that numbers have purpose in everyday life, that there is context for it. Okay, you're getting out, toys. My goodness, kids know when they're being cheated. They know when you've not given them as much as their sibling got. So if you're getting out, if you're checking out books from the library and you say, okay, you get 5 books and Sissy gets 5 books. You each get 5 books, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you sit there and you put the books on the stack of books down and you say, okay, let's count how many everyone has. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you can have 1 more. Let's find 1 more. Oh, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and I mean, do it slower than that, but you don't need me to slow down my counting for you. Or when you're outside and right now, okay, so a lot of people have put teddy bears in their windows. So you count. You say, oh, look, there's a teddy bear. That's 1. Oh, look, that's 2 teddy bears. There's another one. 1, 2. And so just incorporate it in everyday life. As kids get older, and my daughter wanted to start setting the table when she was 4, I think, early 4. Having her say, okay, we have 4 people in our family. We need to get 4 forks. Can you count 4 forks? Now, by that point, kids can usually have some sense of numbers. But do you see what I mean? You step it up as you go. You talk about the numbers all day long. Because these are things that, believe it or not, our brain actually does these things. We just are so used to it as adults that we don't even stop to think about it. You don't even stop to think about the fact that you're using numbers when you're dishing out dessert. You're not going to make 5 bowls of ice cream for a family of 3 people, probably, unless giving it to your dog. We don't even think about this stuff, but there are numbers everywhere. And so This is a great way to bring stuff in. If you have a goal for a child, say you have a chart on the wall and you say if you go potty in the potty by yourself 10 times and you count out the 10 squares on the paper, and every time they get one, they get a sticker. And you point and you say, okay, look, you have 3 stickers. You need 7 more, and you count out the 7 before you get your prize. And I don't know how you do potty training, but that was, I know some people use, 10 smaller prizes and then 1 gigantic prize. My daughter, I think we gave her M&Ms each time, but once she did, it was like different for number 1 and number 2, because number 1 was much easier, number 2 was not. So she got a bigger prize if she went number 2 in the potty. So just talking every day, talking through things, talking as you're, going for a walk, as you're running errands, which hopefully one day we'll be able to do again, as you're at the library, when you're at the store. When you're shopping, when you pull out your eggs and you check your eggs to make sure that they're, that they're not cracked, you pull out 1, 2, so you say, oh, we're going to see how many eggs we have in this box. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and children will begin to pick this up unless there is something that is neurologically delayed. Kids will eventually begin to pick this up. Now, kids will not always pick it up at the same rate. That's okay. But they will begin to slowly pick it up. They will slowly begin to realize that numbers, when you count things, they have a 1-to-1 ratio with objects. Whoops. This is 1, 2, 3. This isn't 5. This isn't 10. This always is 3. So kids will slowly begin to pick that up. Now, don't despair if they're not counting by themselves by age 4. Now, if they're not counting by age 7, there's a problem. But when you're just introducing it, don't expect them to learn it overnight. Just continue to bring it up in everyday conversation and as you're going about your life, because kids need to realize that math has context, math has a purpose. Okay, so that was way number 1, and really that will touch everything else we talk about. The rest of what we're doing, we'll go back. That'll go back and touch that. Putting it in context. But that's just the beginning way. That's just ways to bring it into everyday life and to start. And really, there's no time that's really too early to do that, because you're not forcing your child to do it. You're the one who's doing it. You're the one who's counting. You're not forcing your 18-month-old to count how many cars passed by. You're the one that's saying, oh, look, I see 3 cars in the parking lot. 1, 2, 3. They're observing. But as observations happen, synapses are firing up here. And the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. Okay, number 2, and again, it has to do with that. When at our house, for dessert, if we don't have like a special dessert, we try not to do too much sugar. Keyword being the keyword there. Dark chocolate chips are usually our dessert of choice. So my kids get 5 or 6, depending on what we're doing, how many we have left. But I will count out. I don't just dump the chocolate chips in front of them. Usually I will, especially when they're starting out. My son, sometimes I do this still, but he's starting to understand counting. But when we first started him, same thing with my daughter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 chocolate chips. And of course, they're usually, by then it's halfway in their mouth. But they will eventually begin to see. And my daughter eventually figured out if she dropped one, she didn't have as many. And that is a skill that is actually a developmental milestone that kids should be developing under a year. I think it's around between 6 and 9 months. They realize if you take something away, it doesn't just disappear, it goes somewhere. So when your kid's chocolate chip disappears on the floor, they know that they have less on the table, so they have to go look. Those are basic concepts for math. So when you use food to count, it's just a little extra motivation. You can also do it the other way. My kids get carrot sticks with lunch and dinner usually, unless we have a different vegetable. And my son gets 2 because he's little, and my daughter gets 4 because she's bigger. And they know, I say, you have to eat your carrots. You have 2 carrots, 1, 2. You have to eat both of these before you get dessert. My daughter knows there's no sense arguing. She just has to eat her carrots. But my son is 2. And so you have to eat your 2 carrots. Now, when you're first introducing numbers, again, I would stick with numbers under 5 tops. Unless you're reading a book which has like 10 in it. When you're just doing basic everyday life stuff, I would do 5 tops. I would mostly stick with numbers 1, 2, and 3. And then just as they start to pick it up, because you'll be able to see, you know, when they start saying there's 1 or 1, 2, you'll know. Or if you ask them, how many carrot sticks do you have? And they count, you're like, okay, we can move past 3 now. But I would really just start with 1 to 3, maybe even 1 to 2. And then as they show that they're ready, you can move on. I would never do more than 5 to begin with. Again, unless it's in a song or something where it all comes together. Okay, so food is number 2. Number 3 is toys. You know, we have a little sensory box that I pulled these out of, but you know, when you're sitting there with the sensory box, let's see how many fuzzy balls we have. We have 1, 2, 3. What if I take one away? How many are left? 1, 2. What if I take another one away? How many are left? Just 1. What if I put one back? Now we have 1, 2. And again, you're doing the counting. They're not doing the counting. You're doing it for them, and you're exposing them to the visuals of, you know, things are concrete and you take them away and you put them down. They don't just disappear. And the fact that you're doing the counting, they're not doing it. Now, as they begin to show interest, because usually they will show interest. Some kids are not as desirous of showing off than others, but usually kids will start to count on their own just a little bit. And it's not always apparent at first, especially if they're really little or if they struggle to talk, but it's still going on up here. So my son is 2.5, and now we can play counting games. He didn't used to want to when he was really little, but now, see, how many do you have? He'll say 1. I'll say, oh, how many do you have now? And he'll say 1, 2. And I'll put it, oh, how many do you have now? And he'll say 1, 2, 3. And that literally, it's a game, but, or you can even do it where it's kind of a reward. So these are counters. You could use dinosaurs, cars, Barbie shoes, whatever. So my son loves games where he gets to keep it. He has a prize. This is mine. We do, I've told you before, some of the Scholastic flashcards, sight word cards for his speech practice. And so we're practicing how to say words. And so he calls it my tack for his stack. And he's very proud of his stack because when he gets one, he gets to keep it. So I'll say, oh, you know, if you get these right, you get to keep the bears. How many bears are there here? And he might count. I'll say, 1, 2. And he might say 1, 2. And I say, oh, you get to keep. These are your bears now. What about this? How many bears are here? And he might say 1. And if he says 1, I give it to him. And if he guesses a different number, I say, oh, this is 1. Let's try that again. And we'll pull out, you know, and how many do we have now? You're not trying to make it them hard. You're not trying to trick them up. You're trying to expose them to numbers in a safe environment where even if they get it wrong, they're still learning. They're still learning, and there's no repercussions for getting it wrong. Everything that they do right is a reward. And you don't have to give them like prizes for this. Just using a stack and making it a competition with, you know, the child themselves it's a great reward for them. Now again, different kids will tick differently. You can use a puzzle. So let's count how many airplanes there are. 1 airplane. How many wheels are, and if you did wheels, you would need a slightly higher level learner. But you can even take this out. Oh, let's look at our dump truck. How many wheels are on the dump truck? 1, 2, 3. And let's pull out our cars. How many cars are here? And we count 1, 2, 3. So again, it's nothing. This is nothing you need a degree for. This is nothing you need a curriculum for. This is just stuff you can do while you play. Kids should be introduced to education as they play. And really, I mean, as a society, we've lost the point of education. Education is to equip children and to get them into the world so that they are self-sufficient, not so they can test. And education really doesn't need to be so that they score well on the bubble test in kindergarten. Oh my gosh, don't get me started on bubble test in kindergarten. Education is meant to help children function in life, and that's what we should be doing with play. Okay, so that was, let's see, we've done 3. We've done verbal counting, we've done food, we've done toys, now books. We're gonna go to books. Okay, books are a great way to practice counting. Now this one counts backwards, and I've talked about this book before. I love it, it's so cute. It actually has, you can see these 3D little plastic ladybugs, and it starts here and it counts backwards. So we have 10, and I love it because it has the numerals, it has physical objects they can count, and it has rhyming. So it starts 10 little ladybugs sitting on a vine. Along came a butterfly. Then there were, and you go to the next page with 9. And I love this because on each page they lose one ladybug. And so they're getting every aspect of counting. And again, this is a precursor for subtraction. I love this book so much. And you don't have to have a counting book. There are a gazillion counting books. You don't have to have a counting book. You can pull out, let's see here. Okay, Wacky Wednesday. My daughter loves this book. I don't love it as much as she does, but my son cannot read this. If I read it to him, it would make no sense. But if we looked here and we said, how many red dresses do you see? Oh, let's look. 1, 2, 3. Let's see. I see some books. 1, 2 books. And so you just go through any book and you can count. You know how many dinosaurs are on the page, how many balls are on the page. You can do it with almost any picture book ever made. How many balloons are on the page? So noticing in books, whether it's number books that are specifically used to teach counting, or any book at all, whether it's science, fantasy, you name it, you can just count things. Okay, and that's something you can do as you're reading the book. So kill 2 birds with 1 stone, always better. Another way are learning tools like puzzles, and I've said this before, this is one of my favorite puzzles in the history of man. There's actually a third component to this puzzle. So we've got 10 shapes, we've got 10 numbers. My son is 2.5. Now we have been going over numbers since he was, before he was even speaking. We were talking about numbers all the way there. He's good at numbers. He can recognize almost all of his numbers 1 through 10 consistently. Not always, and I'm not, I ask him now, I'll pull it out, and what we'll do is he hates when puzzles aren't all filled in. It's a pet peeve of his. So I'll take all the pieces out and I'll say, okay, what's this number? And he'll usually tell me one. I say, please put this back. So I won't tell him where it goes, because he's played with this puzzle enough that he knows where the majority of things go. He'll put it away. So, what number is this? Now, when we first started this, I would go in order. I would start with 1 and move all the way up through 10, because I wanted him to learn the order of them and learn that, they went in a row. We don't do that anymore because he understands it. But if you're just starting, do it with your child. Do it alongside them. And then as they progress, you can begin to let them do things like put it in themselves or go out of order. What's this number? And he might say 4. And I say, where does 4 go? And put it in. And we'll kind of make it a game. Oh, can you finish them? Can you put them all in? We're missing one. What goes here? So he's good at that. But we've been practicing it for over a year now, and he's 2.5. So don't expect that your child's going to develop at the same rate as my son. Again, if they're not doing their numbers by age 7, there's a problem probably that you need to get looked at, or talk to someone. You can always email me and we can talk about possible ways to look at what's going on. But just in general, when you're starting out with a 2.5 or a 3.5-year-old or 4 and 5-year-old, there are kindergartners who are 6 who come to kindergarten or 5 or 6 and they don't know how to count, and that's not completely abnormal. But a lot of kids do, not all do. And so the fun thing with working with your kiddo at home is you work at their pace. You do what they're ready for. And something too. So we'll actually take these out sometimes, and we will count these. How many? I'll move these. How many shapes are here? 1, 2, 3. Like I said, I just love this puzzle. There's the third component is that they have these little pegs, and then they have circles. So there's 1 purple, and there's 2 plum, and there's 3 orange, and there's 4, robin's egg blue, whatever that is. Those are fun, but they're choking hazards, so I don't let my 2.5-year-old have them yet, because he would eat them. My 5-year-old can have them, and that's nice too, because they go up, and so she can see how they rise with it. The more you have, the taller the pile gets. So yeah, you can use actual learning toys like this. You can use all sorts of things. So there's 5 ways to introduce numbers, and like I said, I can't emphasize enough, just talking about numbers in your everyday life that is going to be the basis of everything else you do. You don't need a curriculum. You don't need someone to tell you how to do this, you know, as far as you do this and then this and then this. You just use it in everyday life. You let them see you use it. You let them hear your thought processes. And that's for both addition and subtraction, when you take things away, when you put them together. Baking is a great time to do this, cooking. You know, when we're baking, my daughter just learned how to crack eggs. And so I'll say, okay, I need you to pull out 3 eggs and crack them. Well, she knows what that means now, so she can pull out 3 eggs and crack. So you just continue to build. You build those levels, and I've said this before, scaffolding is where you build pieces of a skill, and you don't teach the platform first. You know, you wouldn't have a painter who would stand on a platform to paint the second story and have pieces of the, you know, of his platform missing underneath. You build the pieces one at a time, and you don't go on. You don't teach higher level. You don't force kids to do the higher level stuff and you just scooch past it because they're not ready. If they're not ready, take a step back. Go do a slightly different mathematical you know, skill if you need to. Go back to the step before that, and because something's probably missing from the step before that. But you just go as the child is ready, and you don't that's a huge part of our educational system problem, is that we force kids to go way faster than they're ready. And whether or not they get, you know, subtraction, they're going on to long division. And not all kids work like that. So take a deep breath. It doesn't have to be all at once. It doesn't need to be, you know, in a set order with a curriculum. Just bring it into everyday life, and that's going to be the best start you can give them. Okay, well, if this video helped you, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to make sure that you get new videos as they come out. You can go to my website, brittanypearl.com, and get free printables. I'm actually going to be, I think, doing a video later this week on how my number line works, that you can go and you can get the free printable for signing up. I'm going to be continuing to come out with new videos. I will continue. This is why you should be on my newsletter list, to come out with free printables. I promise not to spam you. I have 2 small children and my own business. I do not have time to spam anyone. I barely have time to take a shower. No spamming. But you can join, and then that way you will get the updates and the free printables as they come out. And I hope this helped you. If you have questions, please feel free to ask put in the comments beneath. You can email me at brittany.pearl, that's PERL, .teach@gmail.com. Again, you can go to my website and comment on my blogs. If you go to my website, you can also find links to my favorite learning supplies. You don't have to buy them all. They're just there in case you think they would work for your family. I'm a huge proponent of, I won't say minimalist, but homeschooling as your budget allows, especially for littles. You don't need to buy all the bells and whistles. Buy what works for you guys. Buy what you really think you need. You know, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have everything. But I will have affiliate links there. Affiliate links don't charge you anything extra. They just give me a little bitty stipend. If you use my link to purchase it, you don't get charged anything extra. But you can go there. You can find links to those if you think something I mentioned today would be helpful. I hope you're doing well, and just keep making it through this very strange quarantine, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.